Good morning and welcome back. Trinidad and Tobago, we continue with the program. The University of the West Indies recently launched an online open access version of the Tropical Agriculture Journal. And joining us via phone to tell us all about this initiative is agriculture economist Umardat Maharaj. Mr. Maharaj, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, morning to you and your listeners across Trinidad and Tobago.
So before we actually go into the online access version, we'd like to ask you a little bit about the Tropical Agriculture Journal itself. What is it all about?
Well, the International Journal of Tropical Agriculture has a deep, long history with researchers and academics in Trinidad and, of course, in the wider world where we share same or similar climatic conditions and our farmers face the same terrain. Yeah. So, in our neck of the woods, we have what we call the dry and the rainy season, and of course that is paralleled by a certain cadre, a certain spectrum of disease, viruses, pests, but it also has different types of opportunity in terms of we share the same horticulture or the horticultural crops as maybe India, parts of Africa, and so on. So the tropical agriculture has served since 1924. As a sort of repository for a lot of the ongoing research that has been happening. So over those years, it was maintained, of course, as a paper-based journal where academics, researchers, postgraduate students, and so on, having done their research, would, of course, have it documented, but it would have been as far as the paper copies could have reached all those years. So although the journal is distributed worldwide, it would have been contained or confined within libraries and so on, as you could imagine. It has a certain wealth of knowledge nonetheless. So this particular special issue here, this is the, after about 94 years almost, this particular issue, it now went open access or just went online, meaning that it's now open to the wider world. So it moved from a paper-based journal to increasing our global readership, and open access means that it's, of course, free. So if you had an interest in different areas, whether it be in, related to crop production issues or the challenges, or at least what are the new emerging findings of research in academia, you could, of course, access this particular journal, which has its own merit and long-standing. But the key things coming out of the launch yesterday, that the Dean of the Faculty of Food and Agriculture, Dr. Wayne Ganbard, explained, of course, is that it creates more exposure for the work of the Faculty of Food and Agriculture at UWI. It creates more exposure for researchers, not only staff of the university, of course, postgraduate students or anyone so inclined, and it creates a higher impact of the work. So, in my mind, just to sum it up quickly, by doing that and some of the other activities which you could quickly discuss, with this particular dean, I think he has really broken what we call the mold, or he really moving the university away from what some stakeholders might describe as analysis paralysis. You know, we often lament that so much research is being done maybe at the university, and then we look at the issues at the farm level or the issues facing the sector. And farmers themselves would sometimes moan there's a disconnect between the university and the perception of what their role university should be playing and their reality on the ground. So, but as a regional international institution, the University of the West Indies mandate really revolves around education, research, and outreach. So, the current dean, Dean Ganbard, of course, he may have seen a lot of buzz coming out of the faculty in the last few years. And I think in this current incarnation, there has been a lot of effort on his part and, of course, the team that he leads at the university to move beyond what we call the concrete walls and fences, yes? Move beyond that confine to engage in the wider population into their issues and how they can feed themselves into the future. And what that simply means is that you may have seen the National Food and Nutrition Security Symposium that was held recently, the Tech Agri Expo that the university held its second incarnation as well a few months ago. We have had conferences, discussions on the Buffalo herd, cocoa. There's, of course, a significant upcoming international conference on climate change and its impacts on food and agriculture, especially in small island developing states such as ours, and a range of other issues that we, the discerning public, of course, believe that it must be ventilated. It must be part of the national conversation. And I mean, in as much as we're on the topic, I could tell you that there's a pending formation of a cross-campus food and agriculture security research cluster, which of course will further implant all of these efforts that would hone all these skills, all these relationships and networks built, of course, on one, I think, a serious servant platform to further implant the need or the urgency to raise the importance of food and agriculture on the national development agenda. So, whereas academia and research, and whereas there's a role for the University of the West Indies in our future going forward, I think that role is becoming a little more clearer, and I think there's a greater connect now with the faculty. Of course, the usefulness of all of that depends on farmers and fishers' readiness, the government's readiness to participate, and all the other interests. So yesterday, for example, the High Commissioner from Canada had already a sort of leadership role in terms of through one of their projects, previously IDRC, now SIPSURF, to fund, because Canada, of course, the government of Canada has a global awareness of the usefulness and the importance of supporting research, policy development, and so on, given the food price crisis of 2008. They are now emphasizing the need for that. So they supported this journal becoming an open access or an online resource because, of course, Canadians, policymakers, technocrats, and so on, could benefit from a greater global view. Yeah. So by participating and supporting in other countries, they could, of course, benefit, and vice versa for us. We have the opportunity to encourage more work to look a bit closer at the issues confronting us.
All right. Now, you mentioned issues at the farm level and that disconnect between the farm or the farmer and the research information and the actual implementation. But how do we actually make this happen? How do we get the farmers to access this information, one, and also to actually implement it and make it useful?
Right. So in the world of food and agriculture, of course, we have a lot of stakeholders. Yeah. So we have the University of the West Indies that plays its role, whereas education, research, and outreach is concerned. There's, of course, a role for the Ministry of Agriculture, the extension services, and, of course, there are other technical divisions that impact at the farm level. We have associated state agencies as well. You have NAMDEFCO, ADB, Cocoa Development Company, and so on. And then we have some others in the atmosphere, such as the EMA, the IMA, and other institutional partners such as the IICA, the Inter-American Institute of Cooperation and Agriculture, the Food and Agriculture Organization, the United UNJEF, the JEF Fund, and so on. So you have a lot of people around, a lot of institutions around that harness it. Whereas research is concerned from the university, the activities held so far, such as the Tech Agri Expo, for example, and a classic example was the case of the honey, yeah?
Yes.
That came out maybe 2 weeks ago and so on, where a video was circulated online with someone purporting that they fed a particular bottle of honey that was bought at the university's agriculture expo, fed to his bees and so on, and they died. What was interesting about that is, some of the comments online was like, you bought that at the university expo, and, it went that way as if it was something, sort of component of food fraud conversation and so on. But the point is, it is an expo. So while it creates a space, and we hope to highlight and expose all that is good about food production and agriculture in Trinidad and Tobago, it also exposes some of the issues and the cracks. Now, of course, after the fact, when that issue was ventilated, as much as I thought it was really, we should not accept all allegations and content flouted on social media. But the point is, by exposing not only the research, but the components of agriculture and food production, we can now educate ourselves as consumers, as students, and so on. The absorption at the farm level, the university does have outreach in terms of, a classic example is like soil science, for example. The faculty does support farmers by looking at assisting with their soil testing, so their issues and so on, in terms of specific crop production on certain types of soils and so on. But there, of course, needs to be a relationship in terms of the university doesn't have the resources to go across the country to deal with individual farmer issues. But I am sure, of course, when farmers organize themselves into groups and so on, greater support could be had. So, for example, you may know of my work with the Table and Pineapple Farmers Association. And what we are going to right now is to try to capture GI, geographic indication, for the table and pineapple. So there are really two components to capturing GI, and all of this is part of collaborative work with the Intellectual Property Office. And of course, the Dean of the faculty and the faculty by extension supports the idea, which is one component is really to look at new plant variety. If in fact that variety of pineapple that we call the table and pineapple, which was featured on Sesame Street and so on, if that is different, significantly different from all the other existing breeds and varieties of pineapple existing elsewhere, that's one type of geographic indication. The other type of geographic indication that we are actually going after as well is the skills of the farmer. So whereas the indigenous practices of those farmers, their cultivation habits and so on, whether that is significantly different from those used by similar pineapple farmers in other parts of the world and of course other parts of the country. So if we are able to do that, it means that the university would have supported something significantly at the farm level. But the point remains that the status of the local agriculture sector in terms of productivity and production, it is not at an exportable level, meaning that the volumes really produced here is consumed in the fresh fruit market. And of course there's a greater demand than we can supply because there's a big gap in terms of being filled by imports and other pineapple-based products such as the chunks, the canned products that we have in supermarkets and wherever the source for pizza and so on. So the work that I am doing with the pineapple farmers, by extension the university is willing to support with them. I say that it is suitable or it will be applicable to the next generation of farmers. The next generation of farmers would say, okay, I do not need to sell this pineapple in Trinidad and Tobago anymore. When we harvest this particular variety, it will by then, of course, become internationally known, recognized, and marketable. We would have learned the post-harvest handling, the treatments on the field and so on in terms of pesticide use and consumption and all of that, to be able to tap into a foreign, maybe a more formal and sophisticated market. Let's just assume the European Union, for example, in that direction, or even within the US. But the point is, when that generation or that next thinking in the agriculture sector decides that I don't even need to sell one of this pineapple roadside, I can now look at the export market. I can now look at earning foreign exchange revenue, and that will create a whole new dynamic in terms of investment, in terms of breathing new life into the sector, and of course into this particular industry. Because remember, the pineapple industry is relatively new to Trinidad and Tobago. It's really what you call the sugar to sugar loaf story. It came after. So that the lands that we use now for pineapple really were cocoa and coffee lands. Yeah? So that's how agriculture evolves. In that classic example, of course, the university is there playing its role in terms of giving technical and administrative support at the farm level, and of course trying to drive that particular subsector forward. And so too in other areas. A lot of work and conversation with the Cocoa Research Center, with Buffalipso and all these other facets.
Wonderful. Mr. Maraj, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us.
Sure, thanks. Very welcome. Take care.
So we've been talking to agriculture economist Omar Dath Maraj on the launch of the online open access version of the International Journal of Tropical Agriculture. Well, here's your local weather forecast.